Hello. Welcome back. It's week 2 here on xoxoVegan, and this week's theme is our vegan story, how I became vegan, why I'm vegan, etc., etc. So, the other girls actually had pretty interesting stories. Mine's not very interesting. Way to sell myself, right? It actually starts a few years ago with a delve into vegetarianism. I was a vegetarian for a few months, and I still consumed dairy and eggs. I was an ethical vegetarian. I went, like a lot of people, I had eaten meat and consumed dairy and eggs and everything pretty much all my life. Been read up on some slaughterhouse stuff, some veal stuff. I was shocked and appalled, so I became an ethical vegetarian. I was pretty misguided, though, at the time, and actually consumed additional eggs to make up for the protein that I wasn't getting from the meat that I wasn't consuming. So, anyway, replaced everything else with beans. That's a great way to, it was like, they were all like vegetarian refried beans, like 24/7. So it's a good way to, gain weight and not have any energy and all that stuff. So I wasn't very happy, and it was just a matter of time before I, started having the occasional chicken McNugget and got back on the meat train, even though meat train sounds sexual and disgusting. But the meat wagon? I don't know. And I became a meat eater again. I always had some residual guilt because of that. Like, I felt like a failure. Hope you're just gonna cough here. I just felt like a failure, and that I kind of like sold out. I was trying hard to, live ethically and everything like that, and I didn't have any support from anyone that I knew or family or anything like that, and so I feel that kind of also had something to do with it. Anyway, so I was vegetarian, then a carnist. Fast forward a couple more years, and I just started again thinking about animals, slaughter, abuse, just mistreatment, everything that goes into using animals for anything. That means like, entertainment, fashion, food, stuff like that. I just started thinking about it more and more, and reading about it more and more, and watching undercover video and documentaries. And the tipping point for me was I sat down and watched Gary Yourofsky's speech at Georgia Tech on YouTube. I sat down and watched it, and that was on October 31st, so I spent my Halloween evening watching Gary Yourofsky talk about veganism to college students. And that was October 31st, and on November 1st of last year, I was vegan. I cried a lot, thought a lot. I had a lot of conflict inside of me where, I love animals, love them, and yet I was paying people to confine them, exploit them, torture them, murder them, and that didn't sit well with me. In fact, I still have guilt that I kind of didn't get with the program sooner. So I did spend, 29 years of my life paying people to do all this stuff, for the sake of a meal, and it just didn't sit right. So that's kind of my story. See, it's not that interesting. Fortunately, though, I was pretty fortunate, though, this time around going vegan, because my best friend went vegan around the same time. I had gotten to know really well another friend of mine that had been vegan for a few years. I've been able to, through the magic of the internet, I've been able to network with a lot of like-minded people with regard to animal rights, just general awareness with regard to animals, activism and stuff like that. And so I do have a support system and people that I can confide in, which is really, really great. I mean, it's always tough to be, you know, like for me, I'm one of the few people that I know in real life that I like hang out with that's vegan. I'm the only one at work. I'm the only one in my family. You know, in my immediate circle of friends, there's only like 2 of us. So it's really easy to feel kind of like defeated or bummed out. And especially, and people that really aren't vegans, I don't think can relate to what I'm going to say right now. When you're ethically opposed to something like eating animals, and everywhere you look, there's someone eating an animal, it really does get to you. It just like chips away at your resolve a little bit. And it's really important, and this is a more general thing, anyone that's in any minority, I think. When you can find someone else to confide in and vent to, someone that can relate and really understands you, that can give you a lot of comfort and desire to plug on. I know there's the old, when I first became vegan, people were telling me about like the 3-month curse, where a lot of people managed to be vegan for 3 months, and then for some reason they faltered, failed, went back to the old way, you know, and so when I made it past my 3 months, I was really stoked. When I made it past my 6 months, I was even more stoked. And here I am on my 11th month. So November 1st of this year, it'll be my vegan-versary. Why I am vegan is pretty simple. I've covered most of it anyway, but I just don't think that we have a need or even reasons to use non-human animals for anything. We don't need them for transportation. This might sound like a cop-out, but I'm going to refine my demographic a little more. In 2011, we don't need animals. We don't need them for food. We don't need them for clothes. You know, we don't need them for entertainment. Stuff like that. And people will argue and argue and argue and argue about whether or not we are physiologically meant to consume animals and da-da-da-da. And that's a whole other video. But the fact of the matter is that I believe nowadays we don't need to. We have a ton of alternatives. You know, I mean, why inflict, abuse, and use? We don't have to. So, basically, I'm vegan because I love animals, and I don't want to use them or hurt them. And that's kind of like my vegan journey / story. Not nearly as interesting, I know, but cool thing is that I'm meeting a ton of awesome, amazing people, beautiful, compassionate people, learning a lot about nutrition and consumerism, just a bunch of different stuff that's all on par. Once you kind of get into one aspect of a social justice movement, which is what veganism is at its core, you kind of figure out how everything else interlocks, and really makes for an interesting life. And I have an interesting life that I'm thankful for. So that's kind of it. So thank you for listening, and I will catch you all next week. Okay? Bye.